What's up, y'all? It's your boy D-Lo.
And it's Bianca.
And we are the lovely couple, the what? The outing.
The outing.
Ow.
Wait for me. One time is all I need. Right now I need somebody.
What's up, y'all? And welcome back to our channel.
What's up?
So the last time we talked to y'all, well, the first time we talked to y'all, we addressed the elephant in the room. And so now that we've gotten it out of the way, y'all, we want to dig a little deeper and talk about the effects of, what we've gone through on both of us, individually as well as collectively. Because I feel like a lot of times, the focal point is more so on the person that something was done to. And because we are in a healing phase, it's important for both of us to make sure that both of our feelings are, included on this journey. Of course, we're healing together, but, we have our own separate, healing journeys that we're on. But we wanted to share those effects with you guys. So, you want to start off, babe? You want me to start off? Okay. So, I'm going to just say, as far as for me, with going through the things that I have gone through, it did at one point cause me to think less than of myself. And I've always been a person with high self-esteem, but I feel like when you're with somebody and your partner is partaking in activities or doing things that it's not building you, but more so destroying you, it just makes you kind of look at yourself as being just not worth it. And I know a lot of people, both men and women, they experience this, especially when they, come into, when they're dealing with infidelity or just anything. And sometimes it doesn't even necessarily have to be infidelity. Like your partner doesn't necessarily have to be cheating on you. They could just not be, paying you any attention or not giving you the attention that they once was giving you in the beginning. And so it just kind of starts to make you question things. But just in our case, because, infidelity was the issue at hand, that is what it did for me. It just made me feel like I just wasn't enough. And I never really understood the whys. And for me, I think personally, it doesn't matter. The whys don't matter to me. But
To you, it don't matter.
It doesn't, to me, for me to be the person that it was done to, the whys doesn't matter. Because I feel like just as easy as he chose the path of doing the things that he was doing, I could have chose the same path as well. And we could have just honestly been in an open marriage. But who wants that, right? Who can handle that? Seriously. Could you ever handle that?
Maybe. Should have tried.
I think I asked you that before, and you was like, no.
Well, yeah,
exactly. So it was, you know what I'm saying? And so I think that it's important to just understand the effects, on both ends. Right. Even though it was something you was doing, but what was the effects? Because I think that even when me and my husband have talked about it in the past, he said things along the lines of, it didn't feel good. Because in my mind, I was feeling like you was just having your cake and eating it too, and you was out here having a grand old time when you was doing these tours and stuff. But I think that ultimately, like, when you lay down at night, when it's done, when it's the few minutes is over, whatever the case is, it don't feel good. You know what I'm saying? It can make you feel disgusting. It can make you feel like, man, this isn't good. But I feel like once you've opened that Pandora's box and you start thrilling, it can be hard to stop.
No, sure. It's a thirst. You think you're quenching it and you're not.
Yeah.
It's like, when I was smoking weed heavy, I started smoking it so much to the point where weed wasn't getting me high no more. Mm-hmm. You saw how much weed I had. I started having like ounces to pounds. Like I'm smoking, and I'm talking about smoking gas, and it wasn't getting me. I couldn't get no higher, so I started searching for harder drugs, and I started doing harder drugs. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, but emotionally, I was just lost. And emotionally, I was just in a, you know, a place of just like, you know, my norm as an 8-year-old child. I grew up as, I've been the man since I was 8. I've been the man, like, you know, and it's me humbly speaking, but I handle pressure very well. I had big responsibilities at 8 years old, running the band at my daddy's church, you know, being the musical director, being the leader in the gospel choir at Carver Middle School, being the teacher's favorite, from winning talent shows. I won the Mega South Africa Fraternity's talent show, the citywide talent show, like my private school talent show. I was prom king. I was this, I was that. I was captain on my basketball team. Like, it was so much going on, you know, as me being young. I had a lot of responsibilities. So, you know, even with that responsibilities growing up, I had a sense of demand and power at a very early age, and I handled it wrong for so long, it became my normal.
Yeah.
So growing up with it, going from middle school to high school to college, you know, for the time being, and being the man in the city, women was a thing. Like, I could bag any woman I wanted. You know, I was 17, 18, messing with a 30-year-old. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the type of power I started to have. And so, you know, for the longest, I didn't love myself genuinely. I started loving more so the power instead of like myself and what God wanted me to actually be. So, you know, that just went and became a drug.
Yeah.
It became a drug. That's like a when a crack baby is born, crack baby is high. Like, you know, or if a kid start doing something that is like these games they get addicted to, Fortnite, you know, all this stuff they doing, you know, anime, which is cool, but that stuff could be an addiction. And if you don't know how to quench it the right way, it could become deadly. And so, you know, infidelity, you know, we could agree to disagree. You know, I don't feel like I was eating my cake and ice cream, but
It's called Eat Your Cake. It's called Have Your Cake and Eat It Too.
Whatever.
So y'all, when y'all watch this video, comment your thoughts on that. You were definitely having your cake and eating it too, because you had a whole family at home. You were able to have a wife and children at home, but you were also able to have multiple relationships or situations. They weren't even relationships, but you were able to have multiple situations outside of your household. That is the definition of having your cake and eating it too. Because not once did...
Your perspective is that. I'll say that. That ain't my perspective.
That's not your perspective though, but sometimes we have to get out of the mind of what's your perspective and what's my perspective and look at what makes sense and what's the right perspective.
Remember that.
You gotta, and I'm saying like that. And so when y'all view this video,
remember that notion.
Comment whether or not he was having his cake and eating it too, because realistically that's what it means. But I think that's why it's important for us, and it's easier for us to talk about it now because we're overcoming something and we're healing. But in the midst of it, there were things that transpired in the beginning of our relationship where, you know, and he could speak more on it, but he had his own things, you know, already going on in the beginning of our relationship when we weren't really in a relationship, and kind of what I had going on, and it was like a bunch of just misunderstanding, well, on his end, not on mine. It was, and so it caused him to develop this trust thing when it comes to me that he kind of carried on into the marriage. And so I think that's why it's important for people to get help.
No, you gotta talk.
It's important to go to therapy. I feel like before you start talking about bringing somebody else into your world. Y'all talking about meshing y'all worlds together, and then not only that, but procreating. You're talking about adding kids into the mix. You need to go talk to somebody.
No, for sure.
Because hurt people, and I feel like in our situation, that was the case of a hurt person hurting another person, because we all have traumas. Some people's traumas are deeper than others, but we all have traumas. We all have things that happened in our childhood, and it could have been something so minor, so small, but you'll never know how much it triggers you until you go through something and you're able to overcome it, and then step back and look and say, dang, like, man, I remember when I was this age and this happened to me, and I never realized how much it played on me until I went to therapy. And the therapist is trained to pull things out of you that the normal person, you know what I'm saying, the average person probably, they're not able to. And so I feel like when you're trying to make somebody your wife, or you're trying to make somebody your husband, I think it should be a mandatory thing that not to only just do marriage counseling together, but you need to go see somebody on your own separate terms. Because I feel like that's either going to have you saying, okay, listen, I'm a jacked up individual, like, I need to put in a little bit more work before I ask this person to marry me, or before I say yes to this person.
Take all the feelings out, take all the sexual things out. You got to be mature enough as a human being. You got to be mature enough to say, you know, it's like when we get overweight, or when you're eating too much, you have to be mature and say, dang, that look good, but I'll take a to-go plate instead of me eating it. A lot of us would just sit up there and glut ourselves. And so you have to take that same mentality and say, hey, look, before I glut myself into this relationship, let me I put it in a box to go, but let me get myself together first. That way I can properly dissect the food. I can properly enjoy it. You know what I'm saying? So, like, and going back to what you were saying, like, this is my perspective. This ain't her perspective. This is how I was feeling at the time. Because even before we met, like, I was celibate for like 3 months. I wasn't mad. I wasn't messing with nobody. I wasn't talking. I wasn't talking to nobody. I had got out of a relationship with my son's, my baby son, mother. We just didn't work out. And then I was talking to somebody right after that, but that ain't neither here or there. But 3 months had went by. I literally was trying to get myself together, like on some I want to be a husband. Because the first night she came to my house, man. She came to my house like 2 a.m.
And it's the reason why I came in this house at 2 a.m. It really wasn't on that type of timing.
Bruh, I'm in a bachelor pad.
It doesn't matter, but it was a reason.
Okay, y'all.
My mom can vouch for why. I don't want to go into all of that, but my mom can vouch for why.
I'm just saying, just like y'all said, just like you told them to put in the comments. Y'all put in the comments what 2 a.m. mean when you ain't dating and it's the first time you come into my house.
Well, really, at that time, I can't even be mad at him because I really was on that type of timing.
That's what I'm trying to tell you. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Anyway, 2 a.m. She come into my, man, I'll come over and watch a movie.
And we sat on separate couches.
We did separate.
Okay.
But what I'm trying to say, I wasn't on that type of time. Normally, when a chick come to my house at 2 a.m. at my bachelor pad, I'm clapping.
Okay, you ain't. Okay.
I did clap. I know I did.
Okay.
Now,
come on, don't.
You know what I'm saying?
All right, yes.
She sat over there, I sat over there, and the first thing I said to her, I said, hey man, I'm looking for a wife.
That he did say.
I was ready to get married. I said, I'm looking for a wife. I ain't trying to clap. I ain't trying to whatever. I said, hey man, I'm looking for a wife. And shortly after that, you know, I guess I fell in love quicker than her, you know, because we did start getting involved, you know, sexually and mentally, and spending a lot of time with each other. You do all that stuff, you know, whatever. It is what it is. We start getting involved, and so little do I know, when she started catching up to how I was feeling, she had a secret. And
I didn't have a secret. It wasn't a secret. It was not a secret. I had a lingering situation from college. It wasn't even like me and this person was
You
even
said relationship.
we weren't even really in a relationship, y'all. It was a situation that was cut off before I even left the wonderful U of F,
So
University
why
of
you was
Florida.
hiding when you was coming to my house?
Why I was what?
Why you was hiding then?
I wasn't hiding. I wasn't hiding. Either way it go, it was a situation, and I came once I started seeing that we were getting like a little bit serious. I told him, hey, it's a situation that is lingering from whatever, but I need to cut it off, and that is what I did.
But fellas, y'all know how territorial we get, especially when we ain't smashing and we not talking to females and we bore down to that one person. Now, granted, this is where I was wrong. I should have communicated with her, or we should have had a conversation so I could understand where we was. I just assumed. But fellas, y'all know how territorial we get.
It doesn't make it.
I'm talking to the fellas.
It doesn't make it right. Though.
I'm just saying.
Because
I never said it was right. I just
Okay.
said here's my perspective.
Okay.
It's not a right or wrong thing. I'm
Okay.
just saying my perspective.
It's a such thing as a wrong and right perspective.
Well, this ain't it. Anyway, fellas, y'all understand when you start getting involved with that one female, it ain't plenty of female, that one female, that's your territory. We get very territorial. So, you know, when I found out about the dude, I ain't gonna lie. I felt played. I felt hurt. I
But still
felt,
continue
and later on, when I started doing therapy during our healing time, you know,
Healing time is separated time.
bro, I'm talking about our healing time. You know, when I started doing therapy, I didn't realize how much that affected me until I started talking about it. Which is we saying like, y'all gotta talk. We gotta talk to people. Back then, self-love, self-care, all this therapy stuff, that wasn't no thing.
It wasn't a thing.
That wasn't no thing, especially for men.
Yeah, it wasn't a thing.
Especially for men and especially for the black, our culture.
Yeah.
You know, the black community. Like, that wasn't a popular thing, mental health and all that stuff. Like, you know, I'm a man's man. You know, when I broke my leg playing football, my daddy told me to get up and walk. Like, that's where I come from. You know what I'm saying? You know, of course, he carried me off the field. Shout out to my dad. But my daddy taught me how to work at 12. You know what I'm saying? Like, I started working at 10. I'm a man's man. So, you know, fast forward, like, I didn't know how to talk or do it. Like, and again, I come from a culture of, I had weights on my shoulders at 8, 9 years old. I'm closing the church doors at 9 years old. I'm running the band. I'm running this. I'm the oldest of my family. It's times when I remember when my mama was working and my daddy was working, and I'm looking out for my siblings. You know what I'm saying? It was a lot of pressure. So I didn't give myself the opportunity to heal before I got into a relationship with her, and I was at fault of that.
Cause you know, when you do stuff like that, that's selfish. It's. I feel like a lot of times too, we unconsciously go down the list of, you know, I had to do this, I had to do that, I had to do this, I had to do that, and then we do it so much that it almost starts to sound like excuses. Because I feel like everybody has had traumas, you know what I'm saying? Some big, some small. It's an unfortunate thing, but I feel like a lot of times, like, again, his perspective is his perspective, babe. And before I wasn't respecting his perspective, I didn't give not two damns about his perspectives. His perspectives were not important to me because all I was stuck on was, you hurt me, you hurt me, you hurt me, you hurt me, you hurt me. But now that we're in the healing phase, it's important for me to listen to his perspective, even if I don't agree, because a lot of it, just being honest, I don't agree. I don't. Because I feel like everyone has a choice. In the same way that he was out here, whatever, I could have been doing it too, but I chose not to. So, but I feel like even in this state, even in this healing process, it's important for me to understand your perspective, because a lot of ways that he breaks it down, I'm able to comprehend it better now. Again, even if I don't agree, like we still have the agree to disagree, but even if I don't agree at everything he's saying, I can hear him clearer now because I'm healing, you know, and the walls that I created from the hurt that he caused, they're breaking down, you know, they're breaking down. So now I'm able to receive what he's saying better, and I'm able to listen, because for me, I couldn't be vulnerable with him. So it's like, you can say whatever you want to say, but I know that the best parts of me, I can't give to you. And my mom used to always tell us coming up, you know, you can love but protect your heart. And I remember one time I said that to him, and he was like he didn't like that or whatever. And it wasn't my mom telling us, like, you can't give a person your heart and to be cold and to be, because my mom is not like that at all. My mom is a little green beanish a little bit. But my mama don't play about her kids. Now, she's a mama's bear, I'm gonna say that. But when she said that and I told that to him or whatever, he didn't necessarily agree with it. But now as you know, I'm getting older, I understand. So that's why for me, I created boundaries. I love my husband, and our relationship is getting so much more better, you know, thank goodness. But, you know, I created boundaries, and these boundaries are just only for me to keep myself safe when I have triggers, because I still have triggers.
I'm talking about.
Bruh. I do. I still have triggers. But it's important for me to still take into account that, yes, you did wrong. You did. But to also acknowledge that he's doing right. You know what I'm saying? Just not always look at the bad parts of it. So people have asked me, like I said in the last video, why I stayed, you know, that last time, and that was because God. But the other times that I stayed, it was just because I truly just love my husband, and I'm a person that I love hard. And for me, love was enough. When in actuality, love is just not enough to keep nothing going. You know what I'm saying?
God's love.
I'm not talking about, yes, God's love, but I was going off my flesh just with him. And then two, that's why it's important, and again, like I said, to go to therapy, because he comes from a traditional family, you know, mom and dad has been married all their lives, and that's beautiful. I didn't come from that. You know, my mom was married to my dad. All of my siblings are from one man though, but my mom was married to my dad. And then my parents got divorced when I was like in the 4th grade. And then my mom remarried when I was like in the 5th grade. They got divorced when I was in 3rd or 4th. And then my mom remarried in 5th. But either way it goes, my stepdad, that's my daddy too. That's my dad. I love my dad. But so I come from a broken household. And so for me, my mind was, I need to keep my family together. You know, I was very big on that. Like, no matter what happens, I need to keep my family together. And I watched my mom, you know, go through infidelity, unfortunately, with my dad. And so, that just played a lot on my psyche or whatever. And so that's why it's important, you know, to talk that out. And that's what I did with him. When we first got together, I explained to him the type of household that I came from, in hopes of knowing, if I tell you what I experienced as a child, you know, maybe you'll look at it like I won't, you know what I'm saying? I can't do her like that. But that ain't what he did, child. That ain't what he did at all. He did the complete opposite. So,
I mean,
I'm bringing it, okay, I mean, bring it back. But that's what you did. He did the complete opposite. And I think for me too, that made me become even more harder with you, because I was like, dang, I'm telling you what I seen with my own 2 eyes with my mom and my dad. And even you being around my family, like, you can see little things that you even expressed to me that you see that, oh, I see y'all a certain type of way, but people won't understand why people are a certain type of way if you haven't lived that life. He's never going to understand how I was brought up, because you were blessed to have your mom and your dad in the house together. I didn't have that, you know. Wanted that, desired that. Very much so, still to this day, wish I had that, because I feel like I missed out on a lot, but it is what it is. So that's just what I was fighting for, to keep my family together. And so that's why the previous situations, I was like, I love him, and, you know, just hope he'll change. I was hoping he was going to change.
But everything was fast for me. Like, you know, I toured for 6 years straight, secular gospel. Times where I only had it's times I came home for a day.
Yeah.
Washed up, got back on a plane to do another tour or do another situation. When I was home, I'm learning 90 songs, trying to, live this dream and
I feel like
do this thing.
I feel like too, your lifestyle it played a major role.
Well, here's the thing. I always been in the light.
I'm not even talking about I'm not talking
No.
about you being in the light.
My career, my lifestyle, that has always been a thing though.
But not at the level of no. You saying that you've always been in the light, and we ain't talking about when you was a child and back. We're not talking about that. But at the level that you were going,
right.
You were not going at that level until we got married.
Well, I'll say this: every level, even before you, every season of my life, I maxed out that level. So, yeah, when I got married, it escalated, like it went up. But I was used to that. That's going back to what I said earlier, saying I had done it for so long wrong that it became a norm. So
again, that's why I said your lifestyle played a very big role on the things that you were doing and how you were living. Even when we were going through things, a lot of times we didn't even have time to kind of come back together and for him to even try to fix nothing because he was back on the road. And so it was just like, that's why when, times you done talk about you being lonely, I was very lonely. Like and that's why I'm so big on, like, again, I love my children. My kids are not my life. My husband is not my life. But that's why I'm so whatever about my children, because they have been with me through some of the toughest and hardest times. Like when it was just nobody but me and my kids. Literally, like nobody. And so him being gone so much, it was like we didn't have time a lot of times to even try to fix nothing, because he would get caught up in something and it's like a day or two later he got to fly out. That's not enough time to fix nothing. And so I felt like too, it was like, and I'm gonna ask you this while we're on camera, when you was getting caught up in stuff and because I stayed, do you feel like that just only enabled you more to keep doing the things that you were doing? Because in your mind it was like, this girl ain't gonna leave me.
No, I was too far in. I was too far in to even think like that.
So at what point in time did you ever have a point in time when you was just like, man, because a lot of times people don't understand this, and I told my therapist this, and when I told my therapist this and I said these words to him, my therapist literally like paused, and I said, he'll never understand how many times I died in this marriage and had to bring myself back to life. How many times I had to diminish myself, diminish Bianca to stay in a situation with somebody that I seen was just, or I started feeling too that just wasn't right for me. But again, in my mind, I was trying to make my family work. So did you ever have any type of moments where you were just like, man, I am killing this girl? Like you didn't see that you were killing me.
For sure. I had a lot of those moments.
And nothing
at times where I pulled over into a Waffle House and cried. Times where I just at the light and tears coming out my eyes, and I'm like, David, you gotta stop. But here's the thing. See, people pray to God when things are bad.
I agree.
People don't really pray consistently and seek God when things are good. And I say that to say, when things are medium, when that when that flesh has been fed and it's full, I'm not hungry. So then those little loopholes I can think and be like, God dang, Dave, dang, bro, why? Well, it ain't tugging at me right now. But there has been times, a lot of times where I'm like, man, I gotta stop. But then what happens when that quench comes? What happens when that thirst comes? What happens when, it's like when we working out, when I was, when we was doing, well, I know for me, I was juicing. And if any one of y'all have juiced or doing workouts or eating right, you'll understand this, intermittent fasting or anything like that. When you're doing that and you stop eating and you first starting, you get those headaches and you get those cravings. And either you're disciplined enough to do it while you're like the nighttime and say, know what, I'm gonna just get water, or you're gonna.
So what about it you couldn't find? See, and I think my biggest issue was when you talk about the thirst and all this other stuff, you had a whole wife at home. You had a whole, and so that's why that would make a person.
I think because I didn't water. So this is where the maturity, the not being mature played played a big role, because for the longest I had this perception of the woman being submissive, and that I had it all wrong. I have to be submissive to the garden and watering the garden. That way, whatever I want to grow will replenish me. So if I don't water my tomatoes and I don't water my watermelons, if I don't, give it the right sunlight and I don't give it the right amount of water, the right soil, my harvest is not going to replenish me. So I had to learn, first of all, like, dang, no, I have to plant the seed correctly for it to replenish me. And for the longest, I didn't think like that. So, that caused so much of other stuff to where I'm thinking wrong. Yeah, I had a woman at home, but then in my head, I'm like, dang, you're not giving me per se what I need, quote unquote, because of the way I was thinking. And so I'm like, well, dang, I'm finna this person, this situation, or that, or it was easier for me to get manipulated because the way I was thinking.
And then too, a lot of those situations were just yes situations, and I'm not a yes girl. I wholeheartedly believe that, and I'm a lover. I'm a lover's girl, and I love. Let me just say that. But when you're showing me, he wasn't showing me that as a man you can handle, for one, I'm not being whatever, but he wasn't showing me as a man that he can even handle the responsibilities that he had at that time as a man. He wasn't. So, but I know that's a part of you when you was talking about, I'm just saying my perspective. You said yours, I'm saying mine. That's the part of you not, watering your grass and, all the other stuff, because David was used to.
But it was some tough soil though. Because
David was used to these, before me, he was used to yeses. These hookers and this yes. You know what I'm saying? These helpers was weak and just wanted a man. And see, my husband is the type of person that, he needs, companions and stuff like that or whatever. Like, he has to be in a relationship. I'm not that type of person. You know what I'm saying? Like, when we first got together, I was okay with the fly-by-nights and just doing my thing and just sliding and never talking to you again. I don't care.
For me, I had to be, I've always been in a relationship.
But
high school, I was in a relationship. When I left high school, I went to college, I was in a relationship.
But that's too where people have to work and understand that they got to be okay with being by themselves. You got to be comfortable with being by yourself too.
Well, that too, but before you being comfortable with being by yourself, you have to come to grips in reality with yourself on what direction. Because granted, there's some people I know that's always been in a relationship that have never cheated, or they're not like how I turned out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just understanding who you are and what you can handle. For me, I just always, for me, I had to stop looking for validation because that's all I wanted. Even as the oldest in my family,
Mm-hmm.
I always look for validation from older guys.
Yeah.
I always look for validation to be the dude or be here or this and that. And I had to. It became a drug as a young kid. I'm 8 years old, 9 years old. Like 9 years old, supposed to be doing 9-year-old stuff, 19-year-old stuff. I'm doing 12 and 13-year-old stuff. Honestly, grown men stuff. And I'm like, now I'm looking for that validation. So that's why I got in a relationship. Then I left that. I went to college, got in that relationship. Then got out of college, got in another relationship, started having babies. I'm with this female. I had 2 babies from 2 different women in 11 months. Like, so it became a cycle to where I didn't know how to say, Dave,
Yeah.
sit your ass down somewhere.
Sit your tail down somewhere.
Yeah, whatever. And focus on God and focus on healing yourself. Because everybody wanted my talent and not me.
And see, that was the thing when I first got with him. It was just him. I didn't care about him. Like, even now, like, my husband is amazing at what he does, but he knows I don't care nothing about that. Like, and that's what attracts a lot of unhealed heifers. They look at his talent and whatever, and the lifestyle they think about and whatever, and that's what they go for. But I'm not that type of person. Like, I just genuinely love, him as a person. And so I think that it's just, like we said, you got to really just get help.
Yeah.
Get help. And now that it is a thing now, self-care is a thing and therapy is a thing, you have to make sure that before, even when you're talking about the marriage counselor, make sure, again, you're seeking individual help, because everybody has some type of trauma. Again, whether it's big or small, everybody got something that is a trigger for them, something that is unhealed. It's something. And if you do not take care of it, it is going to bite you in your behind. It is going to bite you in your behind, and it's going to cause you to create havoc in your household. So,
get help. And, I don't know. It may be some Muslims watching this. It may be some Buddhists watching this. It may be whoever watching this. Get help. My God got me out. Mm-hmm. My God healed me. Jesus Christ healed me. And that's the only way I know. But to whomever is watching this, it's okay. My brothers out there, it's okay. I'm telling y'all, from a man's man, I get my hands dirty when I need to get it dirty. Meaning, I go out there, cut yard, I go and fix, do plumbing and do all this in a real way. You know what I'm saying? And I do music. That's what I do. But it's okay to go get help. It's okay. My therapist saved my life. God saved my life. But my therapist really, really, really helped me to understand, like, dang, because, bro, I was heading to a dark place.
Hell.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
hell with no wife.
You know what I mean? Anyways.
I'm just saying, get help.
Get help, man.
Seek God and surround yourself with like-minded
and hit us in our DM. Follow us. DMB outing.
DMB outing _.
Yeah. Hit our DMs if y'all got any questions. Write us on, if you see us on YouTube, you see us anywhere. Hit our DMs, and we're still growing, but if we can help, we're here.
Absolutely.
And with the love of God, we're gonna show you how He helped us, but also we're gonna keep it at 1,000.
1,000.
130.
And like I said, make sure you're around supportive people. Don't be hanging around people who just have your best interest at heart. They need to have you and your spouse's best interest at heart. They need to be praying for, your union, because, it's easy to be trying to change and then be around people who still living that type of lifestyle, and then they get you pulled in, or they put you in situations where it look like you're doing something that you're not, and then boom, now you're back at square one. So you ready to go to bed?
Yeah.
Well, until next time, y'all.
All right, y'all.